to Houston, so I'm not really that. But man, Houston's like getting killed right now. But Dallas, everything's going pretty cool. The schools now are even this week. The schools are letting us on their campuses to go watch practices, which they weren't last week.
Wow.
Yes, but there's all these events that are coming up though now. Like you have to even the kids have to wear masks now. So like Texas is not fucking around. Players wear masks, all this kind of stuff, and that seems a little bit over the top, but who knows?
Wow.
All right, guys, we're ready to pop this off. Hey, what's going on, everybody in land of Troy? Great day today. We got two special guests, and Scott Schrader and Marc Kulkin. These two gentlemen, if you don't already know about USCScoop.com, you are severely missing out. This is where the LOT admin guys, this is where we get 95% of our info from. A lot of it we don't really share because it's VIP content. But you want the latest and greatest when it comes to recruiting and what's going on in USC football. These are the guys. These are the guys that the recruits and the prospects respect the most. So one thing I've noticed when it comes to all of the forums that cover USC football, it's a trust game when it comes to these families and when it comes to recruits. And I think, as we call him, refer to him, Uncle Scott, he has won the battle when it comes to trust from the recruits. And like I said, it's just a pleasure to get him on here and talk to him.
Hey, good to see you guys.
What's up, Uncle Scott?
See you too, man.
All right, who just joined?
Mark's in there.
Jose.
How you doing,
Guys?
guys?
Jumped in.
Right.
So starting off for both of you guys, I would just like to ask you what got you into following football, USC football in general, and recruiting, and what piques your interest about following football so closely?
Marc.
So my answer has been mentioned before. I was 7 years old, and I saw Ricky Bell carry the football. Well, I shouldn't say carry, run the football into the end zone. And then I saw this white horse come out, and I was like, whoa. And then there was this band playing music behind it that was really, really cool. And ever since then, it's just been part of my DNA.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how far back it goes for me.
Yeah, I think my first recollection of USC football was it's going to involve Ricky Bell as well, was when my father took me to, he covered the USC football team for quite a few years, and he took me to campus and introduced me to Ricky Bell. And I was probably, sock high and just a little punk kid. And he was my hero from that day on. I mean, this guy treated me like this little kid with my dad, treated me like a king. And it turns out he was a really good football player too. But so most of mine is because my family was so heavily involved in USC. My dad covered the team. I had a brother that won 3 national championships playing for Rod Dato, and I had another brother that went through ROTC. So there's a lot of connection there with USC.
Well, your dad was friends with McKay, wasn't he? They were pretty good friends, weren't they?
Yes, yeah, he was. It was a lot different back then. He was really close with Jerry Tarkanian because he covered the Long Beach basketball as well. John Wooden was a friend, and John McKay as well. They were able to develop relationships with the coaches back then, whereas now, we get a couple of minutes with Clay Helton, and then we're on our way, which I don't really mind personally.
Yeah, I don't think the days of us sitting down with Clay Helton or any of the coaches inside a bar and lighting up a cigar and having some scotch are ever going to happen.
Yes. I mean, my dad woke up on McKay's couch in his living room after a night of drinking with John McKay, and JJ walked in the room and said, he was like, I saw my dad there. So it was a lot different. And then, there were the drinking nights. I think it was Tuesdays or Wednesdays where, with my dad, Steve Bishop, the Steamer, there was a group of guys that got together, I think once a week to listen to McKay hold court. I wish I could have been there for those.
Yeah. Now today would be, let's see who we can catch with our iPhone to see who's drinking with who.
Yes.
Who gets
Have you
pissed
guys
off
heard about the practices for you guys? Be able to observe, or are you still everything's still going to be on lockdown like it has been for the last couple of
We
years?
are not allowed to attend until campus is open and or we're told otherwise. We got an email the other day. It was emphasized, don't show up.
But once it does open up, do you think you guys will be allowed to watch practice this year, or do you think that's not going to be in the cards still?
Scott, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm inclined to think that we will be at practice if they're going to actually have fall camp, which would begin on August 7th. I do believe we would be there because we wouldn't be impacting really a whole lot. We actually had one day where they were already practicing the social distancing the first day of spring ball. So I think they've already figured out how we can do our interviews from a distance and so on. So yeah, I do think we'll be at practice.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody who's ever been to a spring practice or any practice, the way they have it set up, they kind of put the media over it. We call it the penalty box.
Yes.
But if it was up to me for this type of situation, throw us up all up on the dado deck,
Yeah.
between the baseball field and Howard Jones Field. One, we'll get a better perspective, and definitely social distancing will be in effect. So they can make it happen.
What you have now in place is you have an administration. You have people that are leading the athletic department that are going to do all they can to ensure that we're able to be there. It absolutely doesn't make any sense. Obviously we won't be there, but I do believe on August 7th, if they do have fall camp, we'll be there.
Now, I know that the AD Bond said that he wanted to also allow family members as well as media to come back this season. That was a big talk from players and parents and stuff like that. Do you guys foresee that coming as well?
I do. I think that it was not so much the fall camp time because everybody was allowed to go then, but as the season went on, there were parents, if they were from out of state, they could come and go to practice on whatever days they were in town. But somebody like Chris Steele's dad or Dennis Jackson, they were limited to going to practice once a week. And, in large part, those kids are going to USC, maybe not in large part, but a big reason is they're close to home and their families can attend practices and games and so on. So that was I thought that was a bad call by USC to implement that rule.
Yeah, that was one of the main things I emphasized with Mike when I had the first opportunity to speak with him. I was to let him know how important it was to allow that Trojan family back in the practice facility. And for the parents, when I found out that they were only allowed to attend one day a week, I was like, are you kidding? Whose policy is this? So this spring, it was supposed to be open again to everybody. And, we all got robbed of that. So hopefully they'll follow through if opportunity allows it to happen because of the current situation. I'm hoping that at least the parents and family members are allowed to attend whenever they want to.
Yeah, the dado deck's available to them too, right?
Right, exactly. Logistically, this should not be an issue.
No.
Really.
Well, that's fantastic news.
Everything that you all have been hearing close to the university, what's you guys' pulse on whether it'll be a season or will it start on time or will it start late and things like that? Is anybody giving estimates?
The estimate now is that everything's going to start on time, until further notice, and we'll see. For me, I don't really, I was having a conversation with somebody at USC today. I said that, the best place for these kids to be is on campus if they're going to get sick. They're going to be isolated.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that part of it, I don't think will ever be the biggest issue. I think, these NBA players, a few got sick and they canceled stuff that way. I don't know. That seems like it's a little over the top to start going that direction. But right now, everything's set to start on time. It's August 7th fall camp. That is maybe a week later than it would have been, but everything else is on schedule right now.
Yeah, I think that's what they're planning for, is to start on time, and they're planning to start with some fans in the stands. I mean, let's just cut to the chase here. This is all about economics.
Yes.
So you all better talk nice. We know people.
How do you guys feel the tickets will be distributed? Do you think there'll be a lottery for the tickets if they have fans? There's going to be a lot of agitated fans.
Yes, you are correct.
you've got till July 9th to opt in or opt out. Season ticket holders were given an extension. Hey, your money's either going to be taken this year, or you could opt out and pass it on to next year. But they basically said, poop or get off the pot.
Yep.
I don't know where we can go with the language here. Where we're rated here.
So, hey, we have it on the YouTube so that it's for adults only. So,
Okay, great.
You can
you
speak
really?
like an adult.
Well, I was
basically,
about ready to
season
like let
ticket
one
holders were
fly
told-
after I heard that.
Season ticket holders were told shit or get out.
Yeah.
Make a decision, force it out.
yeah, they want their money. So let's
And
get
that's
into
what
the
it's
let's
all
get into
about.
the
If you want all of your other university sports to survive, this is where we're at. You need football to support them.
100%. I agree with that.
You don't like to talk like that in light of what's going on. These are the facts you got to contend with.
It's the
Sure.
stark reality of the situation. People
Right.
want to make gymnastics a priority and all those other things. Those are great sports,
Yes.
but football pays for the bills.
Correct.
I still
In
want
the end,
softball,
I think everybody does understand that in the end,
They just don't want to talk about it.
Yes, they don't.
Yeah, it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Yep.
I got another question. You guys may or may not know this, but reading the reports of these two one actually major and the other one somewhat major injuries, they made me personally cringe when I heard about them. But if the football team, obviously head coach, pretty much kind of put a hold on distant workouts for the time being, or are they still operating as normal?
You talking about kids that are working out on their own?
Yeah, so kids like Jake Lichtenstein, who's across the other side of the country, that is doing random workouts on his own.
Well, I think they're less random than you think. They may appear random, but all these kids have menus, and they all have something that from USC Air and Auspice, and they have a menu of stuff to do every day. So the other stuff, there are guys in Corona that were working out on their own and working out with Dennis Jackson. Those guys are still doing that. Gary Bryant and Drake and those guys, they're still working out. It seems like 3-4 days a week.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that these freak injuries happen. Sometimes, I don't want to pigeonhole it, but when you look at Kyle Ford, he's a physical freak. I mean, you don't see any body fat on him. He's just sculpted almost perfectly. But you wonder, with all of that muscle, where's the flexibility?
Yep.
And sometimes like you were mentioning, if these guys aren't on campus under the trainer's, supervision, maybe this would have happened even if he was on campus. We don't know.
Right.
However, it's unfortunate it happened, but hopefully
I feel more comfortable if it happened on campus.
well, yeah, but I don't think he was, pushing a car when it happened. So it wasn't one of those unorthodox type of workout sessions.
Right.
There were some guys like Brew McCoy. Brew McCoy, literally, his dad told me the other night that he did not leave the house for like 6.5 weeks. He did nothing.
Wow.
Because he had gone through the sick. He'd been sick for so long. He wasn't going to take any chances. But now he's working out at Mamba, whatever it's called. He's getting trained. Yeah, he's getting trained.
It's just the sports academy now. They took Mamba out.
That's right. That's why I was struggling with that. I knew they changed the name. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick. I wasn't aware of it. Why did they take his name out?
I don't know why they took it out, but I know like shortly after his death, maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they dropped Mamba and went straight to sports academy.
Oh,
So
okay. I'll have to look it out on my own.
No reason given though.
No, I didn't see any. But yeah, I have a question for you guys as well. So there's just so much momentum despite COVID with Trojan football. With the hires, Todd Orlando, Naveer, and then you bring in a big rock like Dante Williams, and there's still like a lot of momentum headed for USC right now. Do you guys see that? And can you feel a difference compared to last year? Sometimes I'm biased, I'll admit it. And I tell my admin guys, hey, I'm a little biased sometimes at the beginning of the season because I'm excited for the season to go, but I have a different feel this year than I did from last year with the changes in the coaching staff and especially the athletic department. That's been ginormous for me, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's just, it's light years difference. I don't just hang out in Southern California. I go around the country and I talk to these kids. And, first of all, you have a competent coaching staff from top to bottom. And so that is a big deal. You can't operate an elite program with flat tires, and USC had a bunch of them. So, they had some really good people, and it was because I had conversations with the people that are really good at USC, and the frustration level was like right there, because they can only control so much. And so you had a bunch of coaches that weren't pulling their weight. They are no longer there. So you now have Craig Nyber. He is one of, if you hang out in Texas long enough, you start to understand this guy's considered one of the best defensive back coaches in the nation. But on top of that, he's one of the best recruiters in the nation. So you've added him, you've added Dante, you've added Vic Soto, whose relationship building, just in the feedback in the short time he's been at USC is extraordinarily impressive. And so you've added, you got John David Baker, who is now the tight ends coach. And so you've got a bunch of guys that are 100% all in with recruiting.
Yeah, we were talking about this offline before we started, the stream. It's the infusion of just the new energy from the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. Last year we saw it on the offense when they brought in Graham Harrell, but it was just sorely lacking on the defense. You need an ass kicker or two on that side of the ball, where if your guys aren't coming in self-motivated, they have to be, I don't want to say afraid of the coach, but there has to be a little bit of a fear factor that, if I'm not doing my job, I'm going to get embarrassed one way or another. And that was just sorely lacking. And that's not saying that Clancy Pendergast isn't a good defensive head, coordinator, but I've likened him to more of a chemistry teacher personality. Todd Orlando is 180 degrees from Clancy Pendergast. I mean, he will headbutt you without a helmet on if you have your helmet on. That's what you want to see on that side of the ball.
Hey, you guys like this?
Yes, we got.
That's awesome.
I love it. And actually, I wanted to kind of transition into that, Scott, because obviously we have a couple of coaches from Texas, with Graham Harrell, Navier, Jinx, and obviously Todd Orlando. And looking at the numbers for us on prospects, we have, I think, 10 commits from the state of California. However, it seems that we're starting to get a lot of interest from Texas. And I know that you've been traveling a lot in that region. Can you talk a little bit about that and the Texas prospects?
Yeah, they because of the relationships that Craig Nyber and Todd Orlando and guys, Mike Jenks, for example, also have built in the state of Texas. You have not only the kids going, oh man, there's some coaches from Texas, but you have now the trainers in this state, because that's not it's just going the same direction as basketball. You almost want to get to know the trainers as much, or the 7-on-7 coaches is the coaches at the high school level. So they have these relationships with these trainers, and so their reputation of the guys that we've mentioned on defense and the guys from Texas are exceptionally high. And then you have Graham Harrell on offense. His reputation speaks for itself in the state of Texas. There's a 2022 quarterback who's going to be arguably the number 1 ranked player in the country from South Lake Carroll High School. And Graham Harrell's at USC. USC is going to get him. And, that's why some people are wondering, what are they doing with Malik? And, and I would take Malik personally, but, I'm not Graham Harrell either. And I'm not getting paid a lot of money to coordinate an offensive game.
Yeah, I like that. I like him too.
But
I was going to say, on that note, I was going to ask these guys the question. Do you think California kids might feel a little disrespected that so much attention is being directed at Texas? What do you guys think?
So I'll jump in on this one. I think coaches, like high school coaches, will feel disrespect a little more than California kids
And fans.
as a whole. Yeah. Just from having buddies that coach, so on and so forth. Why are my kids not getting looked at locally as opposed to these kids from across the way? You could end up like a whole entire Patrick Turner situation, in a sense, could take place, to where some kids like Deshaun did will feel a gripe and go elsewhere in certain occasions as well. So it's a two-way street.
I think you'll be surprised that that's not
something that I've already seen.
They are recruiting Texas like you should recruit Texas, considering the coaching staff. They are absolutely not neglecting Southern California or the West Coast at all.
Good.
you can do both. I mean, you don't have to just recruit California and the West Coast. You can go, when Pete Carroll's at USC, you think they were just recruiting Southern California?
Oh,
I
no.
mean, so now they're just focusing on one state, maybe a little bit more than on one, like 4 or 5 different states. They're not hitting Florida heavy. They're not hitting,
So that's what I was gonna say, and I think that's just something that the average fan is not seeing and understanding. Is this new coaching staff, this new group of dudes, they are now in a position where they're looking for the best person at that position that they're looking for in the country.
Yeah.
And people are missing out on. So I'll just throw a random position and you say, hey, running back. Why are we looking at so many running backs in Texas? Well, there happen to be some better prospects than what may be in California, maybe. Just perspective.
Yes.
But that's just the way they're recruiting right now. They're looking for the best guy at that position.
Yeah. And then that's
I agree.
Well, you also touched on another thing there, Mark, about running backs. And we were talking about this earlier as well. The air raid is becoming a more predominant offensive, scheme that's being used. Is the running back being phased out? How much in California is it? Is it a receiver heavy type of talent base now?
I think that for the running back position, and that's over the course of the last 10 years or so, they have to be able to catch out of the backfield. You can't have these guys that are just bulldozers that are just going to take the ball and just get the yard. You got to be able to get that yard when they need it and catch the ball out of the backfield with ease. And as far as I'll piggyback on what Mark said as far as recruiting. We've had the last 10 years have been pretty bad for us. But as you stated with Pete Carroll, we recruit nationally. So for us to take right now 10 commits from California, I think that's a plus. And then be able to go to Texas, where that's predominantly Longhorn country and Aggie country, and take some of their best prospects, that speaks volumes about the coaching staff and where USC is at right now, because now the momentum's there, the coaching staff is there, the athletic department is there. Now we can go back out and get, as Mark said, the best player for that position in the scheme that the Children's are running.
And that's what it is. There is a running back in San Diego, Byron Cardwell, but other than him, there aren't any West Coast running backs USC's interested in, because the other running back they were interested in wants to play cornerback. So they're not recruiting him. Prophet Brown.
I saw that today.
Yeah. So but at the same time, you got 4 running backs in Texas that really like USC, and then for even the class of 2022, a kid like Jaden Blue from Houston, Texas. Everybody thinks he's going to go to LSU, and I've been spent a lot of time around him. I mean, he's not locked to LSU. He likes USC. I mean, he's been out to LA once. He'll be back there, and you've got Fast Houston, a 7-on-7 team. Quay Davis, Brandon Campbell will be at USC. And Rose Simon, the coach of Fast Houston, he's probably going to be spending half the year in Southern California. So now you've got a lot going on in LA, and that's
a pipeline now.
There you go.
I think in the past too. I think the way Texas was, people were almost, didn't want to waste their time thinking they were going to pull any kids out of it. This staff doesn't care. This staff is going to go in there and they're going to get the best kids.
Yeah.
Well, USC has, a history of success pulling, running backs out of Texas. You don't have to look any further back than, recently with Ronald Jones and Cedric Ware. I'm sorry?
Emmanuel Moody back in the day when he was there.
For as long as he was there, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, no, USC has had a lot of success recruiting the state of Texas. And I wasn't implying anything. It was more of a question to you guys. Because it's been raised,
But the perception, that was a good question, though, because the answer was the perception is that USC is neglecting probably Southern California with as much effort. And I'm probably making it look like they're putting more effort into Texas than they actually are. But
I would say that the average fan, though, the person that just shows up with his tickets to drink some beers before the game and watch the game and say, I love Trojan football, will have that mentality. But for people that really dive into recruiting the way that you guys do, the way that we do, it's a bigger picture and we could see it. So I think there's a significant difference between the average fan thinking why aren't they spending more time with the local kids? When the reality is they probably are, and they just don't know it because they're not at USCscoop.com reading the information like they're supposed to.
But they should be.
Right.
100%.
The nice thing about the staff is they do enjoy recruiting. Even though they can only do it virtually right now, they are totally into it. Whereas, before everything all the changes were made, a few of the guys had checked out, mentally. They were just not into it anymore. And whether that was just because they didn't have the support system behind them, where, Mike Bond and Brandon Sosna have come in and just totally turned things on its head and invested back into the program. Who knows how well things would have gone back then? But
And
we
here's
know how things are going now.
Well, a crazy thing is that they had Dave Aranda hired as their defensive coordinator, and that was all set to happen, and he ended up getting the job at Baylor when Justin Fuentes turned it down. But if you really look at it now, Dave Aranda obviously speaks for himself, his track record, but I don't know. I'm kind of liking the current staff that they brought in. I think the collection of them all, because it was going to be Dave Aranda and that's it. And
I love what we have.
Yes.
And here's another point I was gonna bring into the fold, and this is also well documented on you guys' website. Scott, you've talked about it numerous times, traveling around the country. A lot of guys, especially on the East Coast, Southeast, the last few years, they've been feeling like they haven't been getting a lot of SC love, and they've been interested in USC, right?
Yeah.
I think we've kind of suffered from our own benefit when it comes to our embarrassment of riches in Southern California. I got the perspective, I'm in South Carolina in the football realm over there, and I got the perspective of, I know that Clemson does not recruit out of South Carolina. All their prospects come from outside of South Carolina. Alabama's, all their prospects come from outside of Alabama. Ohio State, the majority of their prospects come from outside of Ohio. California is really Southern Cal is really the only place where we can just get 12 4-star prospects right in our backyard. So it's one.
It is unique.
Yeah.
But you still have to put the work in, because and it was even, this is another perception issue more than anything else, but St. John Bosco, for example, would have a college showcase every May, and they would have 45 to 55 college coaches there to watch all the St. John Bosco players, whatever, freshmen, juniors, whatever, seniors. And every year USC was the only Pac-12 school not there. And, there are always excuses. We don't like to go there and just bullshit and talk and do this. We like to go there and be serious. And that's fine. I mean, I actually understand that logic, but be there for both. You can't be the only Pac-12 school not at these showcases. So USC was showing up those modern day, the last day of the day they could visit. And there was just no effort being put into it at all. And they still got the guys from modern day, Amon-Ra and all those guys. But
I've been saying ever since the last couple of months is Craig Nauer, he seems to have a plan, very organized, exactly what he wants to do, that seemed to be lacking with the previous staff when it comes to recruiting, getting everything in line. Is that correct?
I missed the first part there, Terry.
It seems like the new coaches, especially with Nivar, being the recruiting coordinator, he seems to have he knows exactly how to attack the whole recruiting. There's no more of this, well, I haven't heard from SC in 3 months type stuff, so
yeah.
Is it a correct perception that they're more organized, they're more, they know what they do, they have a goal, they have a plan of exactly what they want to do that was missing for the previous regime?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have, their method is definitely, just that they put effort into it, and there's never going to be a lack of communication. So whatever plan there was, because there was a plan in place at the University of Texas, and you guys have probably heard me tell this story, but other people may have not, where Bruce McCoy's dad came up to me after the spring game at Modern Day a couple years ago, and he was like, "Man, I'm really worried about Texas, Scott." So Texas, they are recruiting perfectly. It's textbook. And so, but they were recruiting as a staff. So there wasn't just one guy saying, "Hey," every once in a while. Now you have a coaching staff. If I ask Brandon Campbell, he'll tell you he's talking to Jinx, he's talking to Nyber, he's talking to 4 or 5 different coaches. Maybe Jinx is his main guy, but he's talking to the coaching staff, not just Mike Jinx. So that's part of it, Terry.
So in terms of the coaching staff, okay, the headliner obviously Todd Orlando, and then you got Dante, coming in as a heavy recruiter guy as well. Chris Claiborne being on the sports staff come up as well. Those are the headliners. With all the new coaches, who do you guys see as being a kind of an under the radar hire, but it's going to pay huge dividends on the field for them coming up here?
Marc's had an opinion. Marc's talked about this.
That's an easy. That's Vic So'oto. I mean, The second he stepped up to the microphone at his press conference introduction and talked about violence, I literally was just like, I had the bromance eyes going. I was like, whoa, man, where in the freak has this been, man? Because it's so true. It's like, we were talking about this. It was a matter of, you know what? I don't take losing. I don't stand for second best. I only want the best. And it's that type of energy. He's young. He'll relate to the poly community, which is a huge part of the Trojan family and that football program. He was just recently selected to the under 35 for 35 club, which is if you're 35-year-old coach, you're part of this organization where you network and you come up with new ideas. So that's how dynamic he is. And if he's able to take a Virginia defensive line and turn them into one of the best in the country, imagine what he's going to do with the talent level at USC. So
It's gonna be scary.
It's a matter of how long can we keep him on the staff. You know,
I
can
read,
we keep him longer than 2 years?
I read your piece that you did on the special teams coach. You want to talk about that a little bit, because he hasn't been getting as much shine as everybody else.
And he probably needs the most because
Yeah.
you know, when the defense wasn't up to par last year, we would hope that the special teams would be, and that was just a complete disaster. You know, it's not about throwing the guys under the bus, but if we're going to be truthful,
It sucked.
that unit was horrible last year, and it started with the coaching. You know, how can you consistently have 10 guys out there on a kickoff coverage?
Great academic plan, though. Great academic
Right.
plan.
And you know what? And that is a strength. We can make light of it, but that was a strength.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is you're correct. How can you do that well with something that is so detail oriented with your academic game plan, yet miss such an easy freaking detail of counting to 11? I mean, it's
They need
On multiple
unacceptable.
occasions.
Yeah,
We're
it's
gonna send him a copy of Spinal Tap.
So to answer Mark's question, to bring in a Sean Snyder, who comes from from Bill Snyder, who was known for their special teams at Kansas State, that's just another sign that Clay Helton was not going to settle for anything but the best for that position. No, there's this misconception that it's not his coaching staff. You know, Brandon Sosna, when he was on our show, he brought this up. This is Clay's staff. Make no bones about it. It's his Rolodex. So he went out, he got Todd Orlando, he got Vic So'oto, he got Dante Williams, and he went and he fixed special teams by getting the best guy available out there.
USC gets to shop on Rodeo Drive again.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing.
I like it. So I want to talk a little bit about Sosna, because I'm a huge fan of him and what he's brought to the table so far. I watched your guys' interview with him. It was really amazing. He reminds me, if you guys seen the movie Moneyball, he reminds me of that guy that just he gets it. He does the schematics. He does the statistics. He understands the numbers. He's engaging with the fans. He reads the forums. He knows the passion for USC football. And in my opinion, I feel like ever since we got him, I know Bone's been a big part of the picture, but I feel like ever since we've gotten him, that he's been the actual backbone of the momentum moving forward. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I don't know if I would say he's the backbone. You know, I like to refer to him as the modern day Doogie Howser. I mean, he's and that's not a knock. I mean, he is literally
He's young.
He's the idiot savant without the idiot in front of it. He is just that dude who he seems to have his finger on the pulse of what's going on, the right button to push. But that comes from listening and communicating. And that's what those two do exceptionally well.
What it amounts to right now, the way it's going to be, as far as the coaching hires and stuff like that is concerned, you know, basically they asked Clay Helton who he wanted to get. You know, that and so that's why Dave Aranda was hired, or was going to be hired.
Almost hired.
You know, and so they had to go to plan B, and it's a very good plan. And so the same thing happened with Schneider. That was the last piece of the puzzle. We need a special team coach. Who's the best? We need to go get him. So USC's in position to go get, the best of the best going forward. And what that's going to allow USC to do is sustain an elite program despite who the head football coach is. And so I think Brandon's role, from how he describes it to us, is that, he will do he'll crunch whatever he crunches and say, yeah, that should be our guy. Basically just reaffirming, but his input, I think, is extremely valuable. Like Marc said, he listens, and he just knows what's going on.
And the best part about this for the Trojan fans to understand is the way the staff was put together. It wasn't done on the cheap, but USC actually ended up on the net positive financially on this whole package put together. We can't really go into the details about it, but USC literally, if you were to say, ended up stealing from the bank, they stole from the bank, and they got away with it.
So kind of shifting from momentum, we had a statement from somebody on our page named Dan. He asks, he says he wants to have a nice early signing day. Do you guys see us this year having majority of our class completed by early signing day, opposed to like in past years?
Every one of them.
Wow.
This is the goal.
That's a big change.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that February signing day, how long that's going to last. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
well, it may be the only signing day this time, for all we know.
Well,
I have a question in regards to the NCAA and what they're going to say about opening up recruiting and official visits. If that gets turned down, are we just going to see a slew of commitments?
If they, I'm not sure. Is there some proposal?
What I'm saying, if the NCAA says no to official visits, are we just going to see a waterfall of commitments after that?
Well, yeah. What you're going to see is you're going to see a lot more of those out-of-state guys going to out-of-state schools. First of all, so you're going to get more West Coast guys, and whether there'll be commitments or not. That's a good question, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to deny these kids visits to these schools. It's just going to happen later in the year or next year, depending on, we don't know where everything's going. But again, if the visits have to happen, let's say in October or November, kids are probably going to go ahead and commit. They're not going to, instead of taking the visit to USC, which may have put them over the top for USC, they're not going to make that trip.
Yeah, I think the transfer portal next year is going to be overflowing, especially since the NCAA kicked the can down the road till next year about that one-time exemption of everybody being able to transfer for 1 year without having with this whole pandemic thing and the portal and the NCAA making that ruling or yet to make the ruling. Yeah, free agency in college football is here to stay, guys.
And then, the part of that too is there's some kids. USC's had conversation with kids that are committed to other schools right now. They're kind of like, we're committed to that school, and if you guys don't play a football season or whatever it might be, we can always transfer back. Would you take us?
Right.
So there's already conversations like that going on.
There's already plan Bs.
Huh?
There's already plan Bs from what you're basically saying. Hey, we're willing to commit, but
that
plan B is you guys.
A game changer.
Totally.
It's like everybody's asking Jake Garcia and Miller, will they come in the same class? Well, why not? I mean, they can transfer if it doesn't work out. They might as well start at USC. I'm not going to play next year anyway.
Trojan fan in Bama says hello to you guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, so with this new rule, the new rule in terms of being able to use your likeness, Florida being able to do it this coming year versus California in 2023, is that going to be a huge advantage for them recruiting wise for the schools in Florida for the next 2 years?
No, I don't think so, because I think the NCAA is going to step in and make that equitable for everybody before 2023.
Or California will step in.
Right, something will happen.
That's what I was kind of hoping. I was definitely kind of hoping that California's going to see that going. We'll move it up a couple of years.
That would be I'm inclined to think that would happen.
And let's be honest here. The only reason Florida did that was so now they can say, look, we've been paying our guys anyways. And now we're just doing it legally. now we're above water.
Whoa.
Hey, so I've been following you guys. Marc, Scott, I've been following you like 15, 20 years now, for a long time. Marc, you and I have known each other about 15 years. Okay. Yeah. Now, give me your 3 biggest surprises in terms of 3 guys who you didn't think were going to wind up at SC that did wind up at SC. And give me your 3 biggest surprises of guys like, this guy's going to be a Trojan. And all of a sudden, on commitment day, okay, or signing day, they drop the bomb and they don't come to SC. Give me your 3 biggest surprises on both sides.
Well, I mean, I was sitting in the USC football office when Deshaun Jackson, nobody could reach Deshaun Jackson. I mean, that's always going to rank way high on my surprise list.
I'm still mad.
So that's definitely one. DeAnthony Thomas kind of threw me for a loop too. I'm still mad with it, but I'll try and go the other direction here, and that might be a little bit harder to do than the guys that didn't come to USC, but
Joe McKnight?
Nah, it's hard for me to put him in that category because I knew months and months before he signed with USC that he was going to end up going to USC. Marc, go ahead.
Kyle Moore.
I'm glad you mentioned Deshaun Jackson and DeAnthony Thomas because Terry, I love the question, but man, I need at least a half hour to research that one just in my own head. Deshaun Jackson, only because after the fact, the rationale and the reasoning he gave. First of all, I'm going to say, to me, it's complete bullshit to say that, he was being, taken for granted and overlooked and everyone thought he was coming. Well, yeah, it's because you were telling everybody you were coming. DeAnthony Thomas was definitely probably the biggest shock. And I still remember how everybody found out. One of the posters.
Yeah, it was Debbie Fontes, HOT, Helena Troy. And everyone, I remember when she posted that, and everyone just like got on her. We all had to apologize.
Yeah. She was dropping off or picking up her daughter at LAX. And so it comes back to the board. Hey, everybody, I saw DeAnthony Thomas and he was decked out in Oregon gear. And it's like Mount Vesuvius freaking erupted.
I got a call from George Farmer's dad 10 minutes after she posted that saying he's going to Oregon. I was like, damn.
Oh my God.
I think someone who came to you, I don't know why. I'd rather change the question to who came to USC that everyone thought would be just great and didn't. Maybe that's a better way, because the first name that pops into my head
Kyle Schrader.
Well, Kyle Prater. Someone mentioned Patrick Turner earlier. Whitney Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be a can't miss prospect out of our backyard, and you know what? It just didn't happen. He might have been one of those guys who just didn't have the passion for football.
There's that kid from the East Coast.
Whoever brought up Patrick Turner earlier, thinking it was between him and Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't think it had anything to do with it. I don't think Patrick Turner coming to USC had anything to do with Deshaun Jackson taking his ball and going to Berkeley.
What happened with Antoine Perez?
Antoine?
Taylor Mays, right?
I mean, with him, I think he just didn't want to be in LA in the end.
You can ask.
He's East Coast. I think it's from Connecticut or something like that.
Vidal Hazelton.
He's from New Jersey.
And that's another thing that
he never took an official visit or any visit to USC. So he signed with USC blind. They didn't have virtual tours or anything like that back then. So,
and that's another thing that I think people need to remember, how much influence family members and non-family members sometimes have on these out-of-state players. If they're not getting playing time, they can cause a riff in a locker room really easily. You brought up Emmanuel Moody earlier, Terry. That's that's a similar situation. When you have somebody in your corner who thinks you should be playing or starting, and you're not, I think those types of things start to creep in. So you have to be careful when we're you're talking about those players, and I have to be careful, and sometimes I put my mouth out in front. So
Trojan fan in Bama says, "What about Monte Teo? Was that a shock?"
I think that would fit into this very surprise category at the least. Yes.
that might have been a situation where USC did not recruit him properly.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you sell the NFL, USC at the time was selling the NFL hard, and that didn't work with him or the dad, and so he went to Notre Dame, and apparently Charlie Weiss was selling family values really well or something. I don't know.
So I want to shift to our current players. If you guys could name one player from offense and one player from defense who isn't in the limelight, not too many people know him, but it's someone we should watch for in this coming season.
Well, on defense, I'm going to say Liechtenstein.
Okay.
We've seen some of the other defensive line players, but Jacob, he has gotten, for anybody who hasn't seen photos of him working out.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Dude is now called Frankenstein. I mean, he is a completely different looking dude. And if he stays healthy, USC might have found their strong side defensive end right there, because he's big, he's strong, and he was starting to get a little bit of run his freshman year at the end of the year. And then that injury kept, took him out all last year. So I'm interested to see him on the defense. On offense, just because he's a personal favorite of mine, JJ3.
Okay.
I think there's an opportunity for him to step in and get a lot of reps at wide receiver. And he's been working out and living with Amon-Ra, so he's already taking it to that next level as far as
Nice.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And he's generally one of the nicest kids I've ever met too. So he's a good report.
Yeah,
He comes from a great family.
Yeah,
he does.
Like his dad, yeah.
I remember going out to these. JJ, he wasn't getting a whole lot of love in high school, and he would go to every one of those satellite camps at Redlands where Oregon was out there, Oregon State, Washington State, and I was out there, all of them also, and he was just grinding and grinding. He's like, Scott, I don't know what's going on. Nobody's like offering me, and so he ended up where he wanted to end up. So it was a beautiful story in the end. So, but yeah, a guy who I just genuinely like a lot. Also, there's a lot of. This is a very likable USC football team, by the way. There are a lot of players on this team that are very likable. But I want to see my guy Raylan Goforth make a name for himself. Everybody's talking about Solo, and he's going to be the breakout player. I'm not quite sure how anybody figured he might be the breakout player yet, but he's Solo speaks for himself. This guy, if he is healthy, it's going to be ridiculous. But Raylan would be a guy. This is a guy that he has a tremendous explosiveness. His cover skills at linebacker are ridiculous. This guy he was getting like an interception every other game in high school, and he's playing competition also, the high level. But that's my guy on defense, and I'm trying to do my guy. I'm saying I've been following recruiting and neglecting the football team so long I forget who's on the team now. But Gary Bryant Jr. is my guy on offense.
Okay.
Me too.
I can see him making a huge impact on special teams. Big impact there.
What do you guys think about and a guy that we haven't talked about and we haven't heard from in quite some time, but I feel like he falls into that same Raylan Goforth category as Raymond Scott.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know. You actually, Marc and I, we've actually, I think, a couple of times. You watch him in practice, and he looks good. So he really does. I just don't know where you play him.
That's the problem. And you know what though? He might have a home in this defense because I hope so. He's that tweener safety linebacker, and that is a big position in Orlando's defense. Is that hybrid safety linebacker?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they call it, the jack or whatever.
Yeah.
But he might find that role there because when you look at him, again, he looks like a football player, but he's a big safety, but he looks like an undersized linebacker. So you got to just find that role for him on the squad. There's a lot of talent at that linebacker position. So that was, in my opinion, that was the weakest link on that defense, was that second level. Once you got past that front line, there was a lot of inconsistency between them and the secondary.
This defense is going to be really good for EA, by the way. Poly EA.
That's
Who
one
do you see him
thing-
starting in the? Who do you see starting in the middle with him?
Oh, I don't even remember what was going on in spring practice. I don't even know who was there. I mean, there were guys that were hurt and all that kind of stuff. I honestly, I was at spring practice. I didn't watch much. So Marc did though.
So, they're moving Drake Jackson off, well, not off the line, but they're moving him to more of a linebacker position. So you've got him on, one side. In the middle, I guess you could put, let's see if Solo and Iosefa can coexist together. And then you've got, the other side. That's who I would start in the middle. If not, you've got Goforth. We'll see. Again, spring.
Raylan's really good, guys. I'm just going to say that again.
He's got that work ethic. He's usually the first one out and the last one to leave. So if that lends any.
I think
That's big.
I think
That's big,
an aspect that a lot of USC fans may be, not into just yet because they don't really know the background of some of our new coaches. But I would just go out on a limb and say the linebacker position as a whole, from a coaching standpoint, is about to be night and day. It's not even a comparison between who's going to be coaching linebackers right now. Some of the things that you've seen last year in games, the missed tackles, the arm tackles, the bad angles from inside linebackers, which they should be the best tacklers on the team. I'm willing to guarantee it that it's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, it'll be much. I mean, it's hard. Some people will say it's hard to not do better, but it's like but you're saying it's going to be dramatically better, and I agree with that. I agree with that because Todd Orlando's known as one of the best linebacker coaches in the country on top of everything else.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if your defensive coordinator is also your position coach, you already know that the expectation level is being taken to a whole nother level. So if you're not going to impress him, there's nobody left to impress.
The most frustrating thing that happened is everyone kind of knew that Clancy was going to get let go, but why they waited until January when they could have done it in December? Do you think that would have made a difference on the recruiting? I mean, recruiting class of 50 for USC is totally unacceptable. So getting rid of earlier and getting prior to the early signing period, how much of a difference would that have made on this recruiting class last year?
We still had a limited number of spots available. Bottom line, we still only
if they would have had Johnny Nansen eliminated as a coach, the chances were heavily increased on getting Justin Flo. Outside of that, I'm not quite sure, what the impact would have been, but that's a pretty big impact.
Yeah.
So,
Name Justin Flo still a soft spot.
Hey, January still have a shot in January for all we know.
So I've heard that.
Yeah.
So also, I noticed that with this momentum, it seems like we have a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Marc.
No, I was just gonna finish off on Scott's comment that, it's a two-part thing. Yes, it would have made a difference for maybe a player or two. Would have made a huge difference in the overall. You still had 12 spots available.
Justin Flo and Gary Bryant Jr., that's all I needed out of that class.
We went 500. In baseball, those
Hall
are
of Fame
numbers.
Yep, Hall of Fame. So
What I was just
have
going
a
to say is
question,
that it
guys.
seems like there's
Go
a
ahead.
lot of momentum right now with recruiting on the defensive side of the ball. Do you see a surge of offensive recruits coming up soon?
Well, we'll start with the quarterbacks. They've got 2 committed. Running back, they want one more. Byron Cardwell is a guy that's their top guy who's not committed right now. There's a few guys in Texas they like a lot, and Donovan Edwards, I think his name, in Michigan, and some other guys. We're gonna have some updates on that coming up here later this week. But I think they're like somebody like Josh Simmons, for example, who was committed to Oregon at one time. I think the feeling is they get him on campus for a visit, and that won't be sealed there. You get Kingsley from Utah on campus, and I think those could be your final two pieces of the O-line class. And so now you're looking at wide receiver, and they actually, if they don't get another wide receiver, they would have liked to have had a chance at Emeka Egbuka or Troy Franklin, or who am I missing on the West Coast? Maybe somebody else. But if they don't get another receiver in this class, they're going to get one in January. That's how they're looking at it.
Yeah, as far as wide receiver, it's probably so far down my list of concerns right now. I don't even think about it. I think they're probably really focusing on that second running back, definitely on the offensive line. Quarterback, it's already wrapped up. Even if that changes, where one of them decides they're not going to be a part of this class, there'll be another quarterback ready to step in and take that spot. So I'm more concerned with those few areas, and let's stay on the defensive side of the ball. That to me, that's where the fills need to come from. So,
Are there any more talks of maybe a grad transfer offensive tackle anymore?
There could be. Yeah, I mean, that's something that they're looking for. Again, if they don't get one, it's not going to be devastating in their minds, but they would definitely like to get one. Yes.
Well, they have somebody coming in from that school in Colorado.
Yes.
It's Colorado School of Mines.
Yeah.
Long snapper.
6'8", 300.
Yeah.
He's got the size. And that's
they actually like it. They actually, I'm hearing they actually like him. Now, he could be a scholarship guy in a year.
Whoa.
Really?
Okay.
Well, we do need another long snapper when Damon Johnson retires. So
there's one at Boston College whose mom keeps hitting me up, and I wish I could please her, because long snapper from Modern Day had a couple years ago. I ended up going to Boston College because USC gave out Bachelor gave out all the preferred walk-on offers. So there were none left for people that were actually, from around Southern California. But
we needed 4 punters on the team.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That type of stuff.
Well, the thing about Parker Lewis, though, is he's multifunctional. He can punt and place kick. So in the eventuality, and you need to clear some roster space,
I'm waiting to see my guy Ben Griffiths get out there at wideout and catch a couple balls for touchdowns this season.
Yes, man. I saw his answer. I asked if he can throw it. I got yelled at by people on the message boards when I called Cody Kessler. I said he had a noodle arm. Ben was proud to say he has a custard arm. That's what they call it down under. He was proud of it. It wasn't offensive. But you know what?
He's not a quarterback either.
No, no, he's not. But you have a weak arm, you have a weak arm. However you describe it, you describe it. He had no
speaking of Big Griffiths, what I'd like to know from you guys' perspective, because in the admin we have our own thoughts and conspiracies. But what was up with Ben Griffiths coming in spring camp and booming 50, 60-yard punts, and then the season comes and it's a 35-yard punt out of bounds?
I asked him that on the show on Scoop TV. He was very candid about it. He basically said it was a little bit of nerves for him making the adjustment, and I don't think he wanted to throw the previous staff under the bus. There was a lot of situational stuff going on, and he was still making the adjustment.
That's what my thoughts were too, because I remember reading your guys' articles, and I'm a big fan of Ben's, and like Marc said, like we just kept reading about it. You could ask them, I'm like all about that guy. I'm like, man, he played pro rugby. He needs to be on fake field goals, fake punts. They need to be using that guy. 6'5", 6'6". Like, he's an athlete. They should be able to utilize him more than just punting. But seeing him punt those 50, 60, 65-yard balls and then just dunk a 35-yarder, I'm like, man, it has to be coaches telling him to, not go all out. I don't know.
They put the Volkswagen engine in the Ferrari.
And and hopefully we're going to see a big difference in philosophy with Coach Snyder. what I wrote about the special teams thing. Let's get our starters on offense out of there. Let's put we've got enough depth to use a Gary Bryant or a Josh Jackson on punt return. If Keenan Christensen isn't your starting running back, put him back there on the goal line to return kicks. Greg Johnson wants to be a two-way player. Put him back there.
Told you, Mark.
Yeah, let him be that physical dude back there. Well, you're shaking your head, Mark. What are you saying no to?
The running back room is deep already, and the guys that should be getting 15 carries are getting 5 carries. This one guy that's right behind you in the corner right there.
Dude, preach.
Yeah.
You talking about the white guy with the iPhone?
If it's up to me, Marquise is my starting running back. And that's not to slight the other guys. It's just he is that dude who we've got wide gaps on the O-line. You've already got the lane for him. Let a defender step into that gap and take him on one-on-one. They're not going to be successful. Notre Dame wasn't successful when they tried to tackle almost 7 and 8 guys.
No.
So if Marquise can stay healthy, he gets a little bit more consistency catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yep.
Boom. There's your starting running back.
Well, he told us he can catch. He doesn't see why everybody seems to think he can't catch or something.
Well, I can tell you that I can get a date with the hottest chick down the street. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. We all have confidence. We could talk the talk. Now let's go walk it.
Hey, Rojo came to USC and he could not catch a cold.
No.
By the time Dylan McCullough got done with him, he was pretty decent receiver.
Yeah.
I still remember the Texas game when he got hit in the face mask and he was like 5 yards away from Sam Darnold.
Oh well, at least he made it to the NFL.
That was Sam's fault. He put too much zip on the ball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's hard to watch running backs. There's 2 really good running backs in Texas. You've got Jaden Blue, who could play slot, and then you got Emeka Megwa, who was a 215-pound 2022 running back, and he's challenged a bit catching the ball. And if you're looking at USC's offense now, you're probably you probably like to have a mix. You need to have that guy that's 215 pounds that's going to be able to so you kind of get past it. If you can make him in a couple of years a decent receiver, you're fine. You don't have to have all your running backs come in and be tremendous pass catchers. Just serviceable.
So give us your prediction for the year. What's your record prediction for the team this year? What do you guys think?
I'm sorry?
What's your record prediction for the team this year?
Oh, man,
I'm going to spread. Come on, man.
You want the homer pick or the real pick?
Real pick. The Vegas pick.
10-2.
Vegas pig.
10-2. And don't ask me who they're going to lose to. Just 10-2.
Scott?
I don't know what their record is going to be, but I mean, I believe as the months have gone by, and getting to know who now is coaching at USC, that all USC has to do is go from a top 119 defense to a top 40 defense, and they win the Pac-12
Easily.
So I feel USC, with what they're returning on offense, and the defense is going to be light years better. I think I would predict USC to win the Pac-12. They'll probably lose up at Oregon, though.
Let me ask the question. Show of hands. Does USC beat Alabama? Raise your hand if they beat Alabama.
It's the first time they have.
I think exactly. I feel like and here's the thing, like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, USC got whomped by Alabama last time. Well, yeah, they did, but if you pay attention to the game, the defense actually held Alabama to less than like 20 yards, like 4 minutes before the half was up. I mean, the defense was playing good. The offense just couldn't do anything. And then, Max throws an interception, and then, everything's downhill after that. So it's not like we can't hang with these guys. And I think with the offense and defense we have coming back, the coaching staff that we have, they're going to surprise a lot of people. And I actually think this year is going to be a down year for Alabama. You know, they
It's
lost a
going to
lot
be a
of players.
shootout. I think it's going to be a
Yeah.
shootout.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's what lends
you
me
know.
some confidence is talking to some folks who follow the Alabama program. They're concerned about their secondary this year.
Yeah.
You know, they lost a lot to the draft. So when you've got a quarterback and a system coming in that USC plays with, and you've got the receivers that USC is bringing back, save for Michael Pittman, there's reason to be concerned. So as Scott said, if USC's defense can go from 119 to, fuck it, I'm not even going to say top 50. Give me the top 75. I think USC has a better than good chance to win that game. Even if it's in a shootout.
And who's going to start at quarterback for them is the other thing too. If BY
They've
plays,
already
you know,
determined it.
that's a big game.
They've already.
Well,
determined it.
as USC fans, you should hope that it's Matt Jones.
You don't
Because
wanna see
that means you
Auburn.
might have Bryce Young flying back to LA the next week.
You don't want to see number 9 versus number 9?
Rewatch the Auburn game.
I
You'll
do.
know why it should be Matt Jones.
I do.
You're back
I would
there.
love to see Bryce Young.
I
You're back
want
there in
I
South
want it to be
Carolina,
Bryce
Mark.
Young because for selfish reasons, but man, Matt Jones, I mean, good Lord, he's a good quarterback. I mean, I can't imagine that Bryce Young's going to just waltz in there and take the job just because he's Bryce Young.
Mark, when was the last time you were in Southern California?
Uh,
I'm setting you up for a question.
Last year, Mark.
Mark. No, I was in Arizona.
Okay, close enough.
Oh.
Close enough. That's fine. You're in South Carolina now. Is there a mindset difference between the high school players in your part of the country versus the West Coast?
Mindset. I don't know if it's mindset. I think the regions do produce a certain type of player based on the football that we play. And I guess it's based on cultural, diet, what's available to you and all things like that. And what I mean by that is in the Southeast where I'm at, it's all in the trenches. You don't have as much skill position talent as you do Southern California. But offensive and defensive line, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
It's ridiculous. If you don't have an offensive line down here, you're done. You're gonna get destroyed.
And I guess the ultimate question is that the difference between SEC, ACC
Yes.
versus the Pac-12?
Yes, and this is why I was going to get to my point on the Alabama game is before I make a decision on that game, I want to know who's starting at right tackle. I also want to know who's starting at left guard.
Understood.
Because you can say Alabama's going to be down. I'll tell you one thing they're not going to be down is an offensive and defensive line. I'm going to tell you that's one thing they're not going to not have. So, yeah, maybe the quarterback's not Tua Tagovailoa. Maybe the secondary isn't all 5 stars, but that defensive line, we better come ready. Or if not, they're going to wreck us.
Yep.
Left
Who do you
tackle's
guys
gonna be-
feel is going to start? Yeah, there you go. Who do you think's going to start, Scott?
Left
Left
tackle,
tackles.
I think Elijah Vera Tucker will start at left tackle. And I'm trying to remember, I had a conversation with Biane about this. I can't remember who we were talking about at right tackle, but you have guys like Jalen McKenzie's probably the likely guy, right? At right tackle, but you've got guys that you can fit in there, and I think that Liam Jimmons is a guy who's very versatile, and I think way better than people think.
That's who we think will start at right tackle.
Right tackle, I think Jalen McKenzie.
I think Jimmins is my left guard.
I think so too. So and
Who's your starting
think-
center? Who's your starting center?
Nealon.
I mean,
Edith or Neal.
I would start Justin.
Okay, and who do we put at right guard?
I don't know.
Voorhees.
All right, I'll go with that.
Okay.
It's going to be tough.
You like Justin?
They
over
got
Neal?
guys, but they have a good pool of guys to choose from this year.
Right.
I don't know about the experience part and whatever. But you've got Jason Rodriguez, who he may get some time at one of the guard positions also. So you got guys that you've got good players, and I think more than anything else, you have a bunch of young guys that are coming in at USC on the offensive line. You've got like 5 future NFL guys in the last recruiting class. So, going forward, you're going to also see a pretty impressive offensive line, in my opinion.
You think Cortland Ford's going to get a chance to play early, or you don't think so?
I do. I think I think he will play.
He's going to push for playing time at that left tackle position. He's not going to wrestle away from ABT. Don't anybody mistake that. But he's coming in ready to play. You look at him. He's
an athlete.
Yeah,
he's an athlete with good footwork already.
Yeah.
So speaking of offensive line, of the recruits we have on the line right now that have committed, how do you feel about them, or where do you gauge them as far? And offensive line is the toughest thing you can possibly recruit, possibly in all of football. What are your thoughts on current offensive line recruiting?
Well, I mean, Mark and I have seen Mason and Max talk about those. Those are 2 of the guys.
Yeah, I've seen him recently, so I can speak to this with a lot of clarity right now. Max Gibbs, I saw him last weekend after their 2-hour practice session with Giant Skills. Came over, bumped knuckles, said hello, and he's like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I didn't do really well today." It's like, dude, you were fine. You didn't win every freaking rep. Who cares? So that's that mentality I was talking about earlier. That's what he's bringing. He's got to be perfect every single time. Mason Murphy, you look at him, he doesn't look like he's ready to play tackle in college. He's not. But you look at him and you can see the frame that they plan to put the build on. Right? He looks like your prototypical offensive tackle in the making. And there's other guys there as well that are getting some really big looks from USC right now. But on those 2 guys alone, when I watch them play, you can see why USC is really high on both of them.
And Saya.
Mapakaitolo. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
Yes, I will.
Yeah,
I'm half Polynesian now. Mapakaitolo.
In 2022, you got Ernest Green, who plays at Bosco with Max Gibbs right now.
A huge kid.
Yeah, another big kid. Another one who's coming over to Sarah, who will be a 2022. Remember this name, Marion Miller. Straight out.
Gardena Sarah, in case you were wondering what
Gardena.
Sarah.
He will be the
I think I saw you guys talk about him in the forum.
He will be the top offensive guard on the West Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, dude is, you can't get around him. Great footwork, and he's massive. So yeah,
good to know.
We need it.
Yeah. And there's a few out there that USC is still pushing hard on that Scott could probably talk to. That out of state and.
I mean, for this particular class, if they can finish with Josh Simmons and Kingsley, it's a wrap.
That's huge. Yep, agreed.
Any chance of them flipping Brand?
I mean, they're going to keep trying. I know that, and if they could get him, they would take him as well. But they feel really good about the guys that they've target, that are targeting right now. They feel like they have a really good shot at getting them. So, again, you have to, and we'll be saying this about Ray Jean, we'll be saying this about a lot of guys. USC needs to go out and win football games, or these guys are going to go away to the schools they're committed to right now. If USC puts on a strong show this season, USC will get all of these guys. They will get Corey, they will get Ray Jean, they will get JT from up in Seattle, and they'll have a legitimate shot at maybe a Damon Payne or a Mason Smith. The relationships that Vic So'oto has developed with these guys is like blows me away. Mason Smith, what I was told is his relationship with Mason Smith is as close as anybody in this recruiting class.
Wow.
And here's what's nice. Mason Smith will just be a bonus.
Yes.
It's not something that anybody could expect or anticipate. If it happens, great. But Corey Foreman is the is the light at the end of the tunnel. He's the number 1 player. He's the number 1 dude in California that, he decommitted from Clemson. Now you keep him home. You don't give him a second chance to go somewhere else.
Go all in for that kid.
Right. That's the one, exactly. That's the one.
You know, the best part about it with Corey Foreman is Corey Foreman right now, if signing day was tomorrow, I would bet on USC, and Corey Foreman has yet to meet Todd Orlando or Vic.
Wow.
So, I mean, you start adding that to the equation, and, you know, you got to feel pretty good.
Yeah. And, you know, let's be honest, USC has a big advantage there, you know, backyard, family relationship, player relationship. So they're working it.
It's got the Jacksons. The Jacksons and
I
the
didn't say
Lions
it.
are all over Corey Foreman. I'll tell you a little story here before I got to go. So Corey was still committed to Clemson. And I'm in Corona, and it's raining. It's like this kind of weird day. It's not raining, but it's like heavy mist. And Corey shows up, and he's got his Clemson beanie on, and shows up, and Gary Bryant looks at me and goes, "Take that shit off, man." I starts laughing. Corey starts laughing, and he's like, "I'm serious, man." And so Corey like took it off, like, "Oh man, I'm sorry about that." But it's the first time I've ever seen Gary swear. I think he said "fuck" or "shit" or something like that, and it worked.
That's awesome.
Something I wanted to ask you guys before you get out of here. Just one thing that I've been seeing lately, and it's obviously mostly on other websites, but what can you guys speak to as far as USC recruits rankings dropping or being realigned for whatever reasons?
Okay, I'm going to let Scott speak.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to make one comment about this, and I've been a very vocal critic about it. I don't give a shit about star rankings.
Yeah.
I could not care any less. What I look at, show me the offer list. Show me the coaches and the schools that want you. That shows me how good of a player you are. I don't care that some dude named Scott Schrader or Joe Blow or XYZ down the street said I'm a 4-star or a 5-star. Makes no difference to me.
And you know, I think as time as the years go on right now, and everything used to be scout rivals, right? Everybody looked at them. Now there's just so much going on. These kids don't pay attention to the rankings quite like they used to. I mean, I asked Mason Smith, like, "Oh, Mason, I can go on Twitter and I can do my little marketing thing where I'm like, hey, 4-star, 4-star. What the hell? He's way underrated and do all this stuff and whatever." And he's like, "You know, I don't really care." He said it'd be nice if I was a 4-star. And first of all, he is a 4-star. He's the best offensive lineman on the West Coast outside of Kingsley, in my opinion. And so, you know, the whole ranking thing it comes down to, do we need this Alabama site need to have another guy be ranked, you know, a 4-star who's going to knock the USC guy down? Because we need to be able to say, or we now Alabama now has 20 4-stars and 5 5-star. You know, they cater to the fan bases that pay their bills.
SEC.
Period.
Yeah, it's so subjective. I mean, Scott, you can talk to this as well. Years ago, there was a guy named Barry Every who used to scout, you know, these high school players at the camps. And he literally had the audacity to tell an offensive line player, "If you don't talk to me, I'll make sure you don't get ranked." And
Wow.
he said this loud enough in front of earshot of parents. So that should just give a little bit. This is why, you know, the rankings are fun to look at. They're fun for the fan base, and a little bit of, you know, pride when everything's all said and done. But it's so subjective. Everybody has their own guidelines that they look at.
It's $1 billion industry.
Exactly.
The rankings aren't going anywhere. You know,
So have fun with it. For me, again, I look at the offer list. That's what matters.
if you don't have rankings, the fans have no way. You have to dumb it down literally to star rankings for them to understand how good a player is. You know, one time ESPN tried to like rank a guy. Well, he's a 94. People are like, "What the fuck's 94 mean?" You know? "Oh, he's a 4-star. Oh, my God, he's really good then."
It's the nature of the beast. I get it. I'm just not a hugest fan of it. I deal
Same.
I want to apologize to my family members if they're watching for my profanity.
He's been hanging out with me too much. Blame it on me.
We told him no at the beginning, but he didn't listen.
So
All right, Mark.
I guess,
That's it, guys.
yeah.
Appreciate the time, guys.
Hey,
No,
thank you.
Thanks for having us. I enjoyed
Good
it.
talking.
Do it
Yeah,
again. whenever you want.
USC Scoop. Sign up for it. You want all the information firsthand. USCScoop.com.
Yes,
We'll get you
please.
the recruiting information.
You guys have Twitter? Well,
Yes,
Untitled,
I'm at Scott Schrader. We're
Yeah,
at USC Scoop.
Marc Kulkin at Marc Kulkin. Easy to find.
follow him. You get the information straight in.
Fight on, guys.
Hey,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
guys.
Good
Appreciate
talk.
it.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of the week. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sooner.
See you on the scoop.
All
Take
right.
care now.
Thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.